Hi, this is Derek Murphy from creativity.com, and today I'm just answering some common publishing questions that I get. This one is, what kind of an investment should a first-time author be willing to make to publish their work? So in other words, how much does it cost to self-publish a book? And it's a pretty common question. I actually wrote a book called How to Write, Publish, Format, and Promote Your Book for Free because it's possible to publish without spending any money. If you know what you're doing, if you can do all of the services and skills yourself, you can do it without spending any money. However, to do it professionally and to get the skills done for those things that you don't really have the background doing, it's probably going to be better to pay somebody else to do it. And there's some things where, for example, book editing, it will make the book much better, but it won't necessarily improve the story. So you can spend a lot of money to make a better quality product without making it a more valuable product that people want to buy. And so there's kind of a dissonance between how much you spend and the final product, because it's possible to spend a lot of money and make a very good quality book that's just not interesting to anybody, so you won't make your money back. And that's a danger with self-publishing. That's why traditionally publishing will steer away authors who have a book that has no market because they know they can't make the money back. So for traditional publishers, they invest that money on books that are going to make a profit, whereas self-publishers are investing money on books that may not make a profit back, which is always more risky. But I'll go over some basic publishing costs. You're going to want to get your book edited or proofread. I don't always do it. A lot of authors don't always do it. It helps. It makes your book better. For nonfiction, you can kind of skip it sometimes because most people are reading nonfiction. They're reading for the content. They have something to learn. They're looking for advice. They're looking for tips. They're more willing to forgive the bad writing. They won't forgive typos or grammar mistakes. So that's more basic proofreading. It can be a lower cost. Editing, copy editing, manuscript critique is kind of more big picture issues where they take a look at the organization. For fiction, they'll look at the story, the characterization, what's going on, and they'll make big changes to your book that are going to make it a much better product. So that's worth paying for if you have a book that has a market. But if you don't, if it's not a big market or if it's a very small market with not as many readers, it may not be worth paying for because editing can cost $1,000 to $3,000. It's usually about 2 cents a word. So for a 50,000 word manuscript, that's already $1,000, which is kind of common. But you can actually spend 4 cents a word, 6 cents a word, depending on the level of editing that you're getting. You can get proofreading done for less if you're just looking for final typos or spelling mistakes. But in that case, if you're a good writer and you're pretty clean and you can spell, I mean, I might have 10 or 15 typos in a finished manuscript, and I know that my beta readers will email me and tell me about those typos, so I'll get them fixed pretty quickly, and so it doesn't bother me if I publish something that's got mistakes in it, because I know they'll get fixed, and I'm not really worried about my reputation, because 10 or 15 typos in 50,000 words, it's not enough that someone's really going to leave a bad review. However, if there's a typo on every page, or there's poor grammar spelling on every page, those are going to earn you bad reviews. And in that case, you need to spend the money on an editor, but if you're making that many mistakes per page, then you're either not careful enough or you're not good enough at writing to really make this lucrative for you. So you need to focus on cleaning up your own manuscript before you're ready to really hire an editor. You're also going to need book design, book cover design. Book covers, you can get something cheap on Fiverr for less than $25, which could be good enough to start, at least to find out if anybody wants to buy it and read it. However, having a cover that's just good enough or is not particularly strong, when you try to do those marketing things, even like you do a free giveaway, the book doesn't cost anything, but you may still not get downloads if the cover is not very good because people just don't want it. And so the cover is just about managing the desire. It's about the perception of the product. And if you have a nice cover on it, people are going to want that book, or they're going to at least want to find out more about that book. That's the power of a good cover. So you can spend $500 to $1,000 on a nice cover design, but at the same time, if it doesn't have a large readership, if there's not a big market, or it's just not the kind of book that's selling right now, maybe it's a really good book without the right readership, so you just can't sell 1,000 copies. If you can't sell 1,000 copies, then spending $1,000 on book cover design isn't a good move unless you're using the book to build your platform as a lead loss, to bring more traffic in. In that case, sometimes it's worth paying $1,000 on a nice cover design just to look more professional, to have that very nicely designed book on your website so that people trust you more. They think you know what you're talking about because you have a nicely designed product on your website. That's kind of a perception manipulation thing that you can do with a nice cover that you couldn't with a cheap or a $5 cover. There's a lot of mid-range too. You can get a really good cover for around $500 from many providers. You want to make sure you choose a cover designer that has a lot of reviews, but also a lot of a big portfolio with a lot of good covers, because I've been to cover designers who have really ugly covers and they also have really positive reviews, because if you make authors exactly what they want and they love it, they're going to leave you a positive review even if they actually got an ugly cover, but they don't know that it's ugly because they're not designers, they're authors, and they got what they wanted, so they're happy with it. After cover design, you're going to need book formatting. Formatting is one of those things you could do by yourself in Word, but I don't recommend it because it's actually pretty frustrating to get everything right, especially the headers and the footers and alternating pages and the not having the headers and the footers on the chapter titles. There's a lot of things you have to do in Word, and it's really easy to get everything jumbled up, and then you have to go through and fix it again. We always format in Adobe InDesign, which is more expensive. InDesign formatting will cost a couple $100. We charge, I think, $349 or $449. But most people, if you're looking at somebody formatting your book and they say, we'll format your book for CreateSpace, and they're charging under $100, they're probably doing it in Microsoft Word, which can be fine if they know what they're doing. You can make it look pretty good. It won't be as good as InDesign, but it might be good enough. On the other hand, there's a lot of people who don't really know what they're doing, and they might do it in Word, but they're not designers, so maybe they got everything right, but it doesn't look very good because they don't have that aesthetic sense to create a nice looking book. That's more of a designer sense. So you can pay $50 to $150 for Microsoft Word formatting, even less sometimes on Fiverr. You can pay $150 to $450 for Adobe InDesign formatting. It's going to cost more if you have notes or footnotes or back matter material. There's other things that can go in a nonfiction book. It might cost a lot more if you have images. For ebook formatting, you can use free ebook conversion tools. You can even upload your Word file to Kindle and they'll convert it to a Kindle file. It's risky because it's easy to get things screwed up. On the other hand, ebook formatting doesn't matter as much as you think it does. As long as it looks okay, it doesn't look like it doesn't have strange characters, it's not totally jumbled up or garbage text. If it looks pretty good and looks clean, it's fine. You don't need to add a lot of design into your ebooks, because the important thing is that they function on all the different ebook tools and devices, and they're all different. They all have different kind of requirements, so they're all going to look a little bit different. But if you start adding in fonts or headers or images, then they might look a lot different on different platforms. They might not even work on some platforms. But you could also pay, I mean, we charge $150 for ebook formatting because we really go into the code and we do it right from scratch. But you can pay a lot less. I've got a website called DIYbookformats.com, and it has free conversion tools, which are actually really good. You can just upload your document and it'll convert it for you. As long as you set up your Word your Word file the right way, the final MOBI and EPUB file should work fine and look really good. You're also going to want website design, and that's another thing. You can get a free website. You can use Wix or WordPress, use a free theme. But if you don't know how to design websites, you're going to make poor choices, and you're not going to set up a website that's going to help you sell the book. There's a way to do it that's kind of the right way. It doesn't really matter how it looks. It's got to be clean and functional. And a lot of authors, they'll focus on how it looks. So they'll put things exactly where they want them to go without considering what readers expect or what they're used to. And they'll also probably design some things. It's possible. I mean, MySpace kind of went out of business because MySpace was a place that allowed you to completely customize your own profile pages, and Facebook replaced them because MySpace became saturated with super ugly sites. And that's what's happening when non-tech aware authors are getting into the internet and they have the freedom to design their own websites, and they make something really terrible that doesn't do anything except scare readers away. It's possible to have a website that's worse than having no website at all, and probably 50% of authors have one of those websites. You don't have to pay a lot of money, but on the other hand, it's easy to do it really badly, and if you have a bad website, it can hurt your sales and kill your professional reputation. So something to consider is just, I mean, I have a site, I make a lot of websites, I make a lot of WordPress websites. I made a site called authoridentity.com, which is just like a template of the perfect WordPress author website. So it's all just, it's not a real website, it's kind of a fake website to show you how to set up a WordPress author website. That I use an example when I give my design guys a project. If they have to redo somebody's WordPress website, they'll just kind of make it like that, because there's a way to do it with a very simple minimalist template, a little logo, nice book cover. You don't have to have it all custom branded and have a lot of images, and really that'll slow your site down. You want to make something really simple. You can use a nice WordPress site that costs $50. You can hire someone for another $50 on Fiverr.com to set up your WordPress site for you. And just don't screw it up. Just keep it simple, focus on the content, focus on writing articles that are going to attract your right readers, and don't go overboard with the web design, because really you just want something that works and that's clean. You can also spend $1,000 and get someone to make something for you, but what I found is paying $1,000 or $2,000 for an author website, a lot of author website designers will make you something that you want or that you like, that really isn't focused on marketing or selling your book or building your email list. And so our websites, they may seem more simple, they may be faster to set up. On the other hand, our websites work much better than websites that you could pay a lot more for, that are more custom branded and have more design elements, because we know what we're doing to sell your book, and that's what we focus on. So it's not so much how much work goes into it or what the final design looks like, it's how much traffic are you getting, how much of that traffic are you converting into readers or getting to sign up to your email list. That's more important than how it looks. So you really got to think about the function. What do you want readers to do, and how many of them are actually, taking action? And if they're not taking action, what are you doing wrong? How can you fix it? Finally, if you're doing a book launch, you can spend money on advertising or book marketing. You can pay $500 to $2,000 to, there's some book marketing companies right now that cost $5,000 or $10,000, and I would consider those for some of my books if it's a major genre, if it's popular nonfiction or fiction, and there's a lot of potential. If I think I can sell 20,000 copies, then I might pay $5,000 or $10,000 on a book marketing strategist who can sell me those extra 10,000 copies. Like if I already have a strong book launch in mind, anything extra, 10,000 extra copies sold, that's another $20,000 or $30,000 profit. So it's worth spending that money if you have a home run, or if you have something that you can sell, if you know there's a readership, if you're partnering well with other authors, if you already have your own platform. But if it's your first book, you've just set up your website design, you don't really have a platform, you haven't tested the readership at all, I wouldn't spend very much money on marketing. Instead, I would just set up a nice website, or even skip it and just focus on Facebook advertising. You can target really specific people with Facebook, so you can go in and say, like we have a best-selling romance author soon that we're promoting her new launch, and we can target her Facebook fans, because Facebook will only, even though she has 10,000 fans, Facebook will only show a small percentage of those people her post. Even if she says, this is my new book, she might only reach 10 or 20%. So with Facebook boosted posts or advertising, we can target her own fans, and they're going to be more likely to take action. But we can also target people who like Romance Writers of America or other organizations. We can target other best-selling romance authors. We can target the readers who have liked those other authors, and we can say, did you like that other author? You might like this new book. You want to get very targeted, and then you want to present a call to action or an offer that's going to attract those specific people. Those Facebook ads, you can spend $100 on Facebook ads and get pretty high click-through, so you might spend 50 cents per click, and if you're selling 50% of them and you're selling at $2.99, you can make a profit on every click. And once you've figured that ratio out, you'll be able to just increase your advertising and increase your sales. So you've really got to focus on the numbers rather than just spending. A lot of authors, they'll spend on like a Twitter blast. So they'll spend $100 to reach 1 million people on Twitter, but they can't really know how many of those people are clicking. And usually Twitter blasts like that don't work anyway because it's not specific targeted audience. It's kind of everybody on Twitter. And most of those people, they're not going to care about your book. And if it's a big company doing all these Twitter blasts, they probably have like 10 or 20 of these blasts every week. And all of those people following them, they just tune them out. They're not listening anymore. So that your book isn't going to be successful unless you're really presenting your book and making a strong offer in front of very specific targeted people who have a high likelihood of liking your book anyway. And then you can boost it with an incentive. If just getting in front of them isn't really enough anymore, saying you have a free book or 99-cent book, that's not a strong enough offer to get them to take action. So you really need to either boost it with a lot of social proof, like have a lot of reviews or a review from a best-selling author, or social proof like it's already sold 10,000 copies. Those big numbers prove to people that your book is worth checking out. But if you don't have that stuff, you need a bigger incentive. And you can we might give away a Kindle sometimes just because maybe 99-cent book isn't a good enough offer, but if we say you also have a chance to win a $200 Kindle, that's a better incentive. More people are going to click, and if they're kind of on the fence for that 99 cents or $2.99 to buy a book that they're kind of interested in but they don't really want, offering an incentive, a prize, a giveaway, a high value item, that might push them over the fence and you'll get more clicks and more buys. And for that, I mean, $200 for a HD Kindle Fire, that might work better than $200 with advertising or blog ads or something like that. The all-around cost to self-publish your work, you can do it for $20. You can make a cover and put it on Kindle, get Kindle formatting on Fiverr.com and get a cover on Fiverr.com, put it on Kindle, and sell it and promote it on all the free or cheap Kindle sites, promote on Reddit or on LinkedIn. You can do things very cheap. You can publish for $20 and it'll be okay. Like you'll survive, and it might take off if it's a decent enough cover, if it's a really good story. If you keep promoting it, doing free things, it might take off. On the other hand, you can spend $2,000, and that's kind of an average number to publish a book, but you don't really want to spend $2,000 on your first book unless you've got the budget. If you have the money, if this is your big project you've been working on for years, it's worth spending the money to do well, to kind of just give it its best chance of success. Get the right things, get the nice cover. The cover is really going to make the biggest difference. So I would focus on the cover more than I would focus on the website, because the website's more long-term. The website's about long-term bringing in your own traffic so that you don't have to keep advertising or marketing, because you'll keep bringing in traffic to your website and keep sending them to your book. So it's like it's a long-term funnel, but you don't need that in the very beginning. So you can spend $2,000 on the formatting and the book cover and maybe a website or maybe a little bit of marketing and kind of give it its best chance of a good launch. It doesn't guarantee that you'll earn that $2,000 back. It depends on on if anybody wants to read that book. So you can do it cheap. You can do it for $2,000. I wouldn't spend $5,000 or $10,000 on a book unless I'm getting to the point where I have a big enough platform and I know how to produce a best-selling book to the extent that I could make a book for the right readers that would become a best-selling book. And for me, it might be willing to spend $5,000 or $10,000 because if it's done well with a good product, if a good product is done well and it has a big readership, spending that much money to do a really good book launch and reach that readership, it's more of an investment because there's a better chance I'll make that money back. And that's when you can really get into the big numbers. If you spend $5,000 and you make $20,000 back on book sales. But if it's your first and you don't have a big platform, you don't want to just sign up with a company, a self-publishing company that's going to say, we'll take care of everything for you for $5,000, because what they're actually doing is they're outsourcing most of the work for $2,000 and they're keeping $3,000 profit. So you're losing a lot of money, and they're making money not on the book sales, but on the services. So they're making money from you paying to produce the book, but they don't care if it's a best-selling book because they don't make money from your book sales. So you want to be careful about spending that kind of money. If you're going to pay for marketing, it's better if you're paying for a company that's invested in your book success. So maybe they get 20% of those sales, then they're going to care more about making it successful because they're going to earn money too. And so that's the kind of publishing relationship I would be more interested in. Otherwise, if you're self-publishing and you're just paying for services, you want to be careful not to pay too much. And usually if you pay a self-publishing company and they kind of offer everything, that means they're outsourcing all the pieces. Whereas if you just like pay me for a book cover design, I'm doing the book cover design myself and I'm not taking care of all those other pieces. So I'm not just making profit, I need to make a good cover for you because that's my reputation, that's my business. I can't just, make a mediocre cover because that's going to hurt me as well. I need to be making really good covers to build my business and my platform. Anyway, that's a long-winded answer, but there's a lot of costs involved in publishing and there's a big range. And there's a lot you need to watch out for, because it's easy to spend a lot of money and not get a quality book or to not get good quality work done. And you want to make sure that you're producing a product that's going to sell. And so the hard part about self-publishing is you should have thought about your product before you wrote your book. And at this point, when you finish your book and now you're taking your manuscript and turning it into a product, it's too late to fix the number one thing that's going to matter, and that's whether your book has a readership or whether anybody wants to read it. And so at this point, the money that you're spending, you're not building a business, you're not selling a product like an entrepreneur would, you're not developing a product that's going to sell. You're taking a hobby, you're taking a passion project that may or may not have the potential for success because you didn't write it to be a successful product, and now you're throwing a bunch of money at it to try to make it successful. You can spend $5,000 promoting a book that doesn't have a right market, and it just won't matter, because even if everything is done well, even if you have a beautiful website and a perfectly produced book and you do a brilliant marketing campaign, it's not going to matter if nobody wants to read the book. And that's the mistake you made because you didn't write the right kind of book. And so that's where I see probably 75% or higher of self-publishing authors. They wrote the wrong book. They didn't consider the readership, and that's a mistake that's unfixable. So you're coming into this arena now of self-publishing, and you're trying to make a best-selling book, but you have the wrong product. And that's something nobody's going to be able to help you with. And a lot of people will take your money to, do their best to fix it. But what's really going to happen is you're probably going to spend a lot of money. Your book won't be very successful. And then you'll figure out you needed to write a better book, and you'll start writing another book with a bigger readership. You'll figure out that you didn't write the right kind of book, and now you'll try again. By the third or fourth time, maybe you write 5 books, and then you start to write books that sell, that have a readership. That's when you're going to start to see success and start to make money. So the first book, you may just be learning what not to do or what doesn't work. And it might take those 5 books to figure out how to make money self-publishing. That's the point when you spend money, but you earn it all back. So you know exactly, I can spend $2,000 on promoting this book, on designing it, on publishing it, because I'm going to make $10,000 back. And it's also long-term. I mean, you may make $100 a month for 10 years and make that $10,000. So, you can't just think about making the money back right now. You want to think five years down the line. I mean, it might take 5 years to earn $5,000 on one book, but then you have 10 books, and after 5 years, you make $50,000. That's not a bad hobby if you're doing this outside of your main job. And if you write a lot of books, I mean, I plan to write 50 books, so 20 fiction and maybe 20 nonfiction. By the time I've written those books in 5 years, I'll be making $10,000 or $20,000 a month. It's going to take a lot of work to get there, but it's a long-term game. And at that point, I can spend a couple $1,000s on each book because I know it's worth it long time. I'm building up long-term passive income that's worth it. So you want to just be a little bit careful about what you spend on. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.